All right, well, I'm excited about the thing I'm going to talk to you about today. This is actually part one of a three-part series on the life of one of my great historical heroes, a man named Martin Luther. Now, Martin Luther did an amazing thing on what we call today Halloween. We were recording this 2 days before Halloween. And when we think of October the 31st here in America, we usually think of Halloween, something kind of spooky and scary. But actually something happened on October the 31st, 501 years ago, that changed a man's life and changed Western civilization and affected our life. And that happened with a man named Martin Luther. So let me tell you a little background about Martin Luther. He grew up in Germany, and he grew up in a home that was very, very strict and very stern. His mother and his father were both very strict. In fact, they were actually mean to him. They demanded perfection of their little boy, and he just couldn't be perfect. He tried, but he just couldn't please his mother and his father. Many times they would punish him severely. They would today be arrested for child abuse because they would beat him, and he would try so hard to please them, but he just couldn't please them. As he got older, he was told by his father, "I want you to be a lawyer." And he thought, oh, this will please my father. So he went to a place to study for law. And he was a good student. But as he studied, he just constantly was thinking about, if I can't even please my parents, how could I possibly please God? And he was so terrified. He thought God was angry with him, like his father was angry with him. And unfortunately, he lived in a day and a time when the church, the Roman Catholic Church, was very, very manipulative, very strong, very punitive. In fact, if you went against the church, you could be persecuted and even killed. A man named John Huss had actually been killed just a century before because he disagreed with the Roman Catholic Church. And the church had become very corrupt. It's not like it is today, actually, but it was a time when the church was greedy, and there was a lot of bad things going on in the church. But Martin Luther he had gone to school to study to be a lawyer, and he said, I believe that I need to do something to please God. And so he went home to talk to his father, and he said to his father, "Father, I don't believe I want to be a lawyer. I believe that God may have something for me to do." Well, his father was very angry. He said, "No, I want you to be a lawyer." So on his way back to school, as he was riding his horse along, suddenly there came up a massive thunderstorm. Black clouds everywhere, thunder crashing, and lightning flashing. And he was so scared because he thought, what if God is trying to kill me? And all of a sudden, lightning struck a tree not very far from where he was so hard it knocked him off of his horse, knocked him onto the ground, and he screamed out, "Saint Anne, save me, and I will become a monk." And he obviously was saved. He didn't die. And so he got up from that event and he said, "I have to be a monk because my life was spared." We went back home, told his father. His father was very angry. He said, "No, you can't be a monk. I want you to be a lawyer." But he said, "I have to do what God wants me to do because I'm scared of God." And he was afraid of God. And so he went and he joined a monastery called an Augustinian monastery. And while he was in that monastery, he tried so hard to be perfect. He wanted to do everything that God wanted him to do, but he found that he couldn't do that. No matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't be perfect. and he would go into confession, and he would talk to the priest, his priest. In fact, all the priests ran from him. They thought, man, once he starts confessing his sins to us, we'll be here all day. And he tried and tried and tried to convince people that he was so sorry for his sin. And then he was sent to Rome. And he thought, this is going to be wonderful. I'll go to Rome and I'll get to see the wonderful sights there of the Holy Roman Catholic Church. But once he got to Rome, he discovered that the church was not at all what it ought to be. It was very corrupt, and he even climbed up the steps on his knees at the Vatican. And when he got to the top, he stood back and he looked and he said, I don't see how this is accomplishing anything. So he went back home, went back to Germany, and there he began to study and teach the book of Romans. And as he opened his Bible and he began to read the book of Romans, he came to a verse where it said, the just shall live by faith. And he said, faith, that's what I've been missing. I don't need to do all this religious stuff. I just need to trust in Jesus. And he began to move in a right direction, and suddenly he knew that he wanted to be a Christian who just loved and trusted Jesus. And the next part of the story, I'm going to tell you about something he did 2 years later that changed his life and actually changed our life as well.